It's a new day, and it's not just any day, it's Super Soul Sunday. But what we're all praying for is Super Soul Sunday. Yo, that's the day when we actually all get into the game. When the coach calls out your number, calls out your last name. But for now, I'm just a training, yo. I'm working on my fundamentals. Being ready for the game has never been something that comes coincidental. It comes when the soul gives everything to what they're here and doing. And never forgets it's the end zone that we are all pursuing. Training is tough, coach puts us in through all those crazy drills to help us improve our basic game plan, yo, our basic skills. But today, I and the other draftees gather in the heavenly stands. We cheer and stand and shout and clap with our celestial hands around the Super Soul Dome, the blue-green planet Earth with its perfect ozone dome and natural grass-green turf. Sometimes we watch for hours, sometimes for more than a day, as the players try to implement or react to some complicated play. Like the reverse, they have to go back and make amends for something in their past. It's not an easy play, but once it's done, the game can become a blast. Or the trap. That's when a player gets stuck in traffic or has to spend the weekend with their in-laws. The only way to continue toward the end zone is acceptance, a deep breath, a prayerful pause. Then there's the blitz. That's when everyone is rushing at you like a verbal rumble, complaining, blaming, humiliating. It's everything you can do just to not fumble. Zone defense, that's a passive-aggressive strategy. When players are just standing around, you have to seek to understand before you can make any grab. Then there's the screen. That's when one player is trying to keep another from seeing the truth, what's real. The only way around this play, go directly to the source with an honest appeal. And when someone desires solitude for a while, it's called a quarterback sneak. They go to the mountain, the desert, or a forest. It is enlightenment that they seek. And finally, the sweep. This is when a player forgives everyone and everything in one big motion. It's rare, but Hall of Famers like Jesus, Gandhi, Mother Teresa have done it. It takes great devotion. Yes, the Hall of Famers are our inspiration. We watch the films, we study their moves with great revelation. Mother Teresa could get through a zone with a single smile. Gandhi could move through a blitz with a word or a wink. He was versatile. And Jesus did the ultimate quarterback sneak. 40 days in the desert sun, and when he returned, he pulled off a sweep, forgave everyone. So we train on a field that replicates the Super Soul Dome. Coach puts us in the game situations to see if our skills have been honed, like the trap. I was put in a simulated grocery checkout line. It was a wreck. Everyone in front of me needed a price check. Another time, Coach called a screen in a simulated marriage. All the headaches and the disparage. My sim wife cheated. Her sister was running interference, a screen. Coach was yelling from the sidelines, "Forgive, forgive!" Caught up in the game, I yelled, "What do you mean?" The coach, of course, always knows the right play. We just have to trust. It's hard in the heat of the game to reach the end zone, but it's a must. And so we kept running simulations, and one time behind the blitz, I was in deep. I took a deep breath, remembered the Hall of Famers, and I pulled off a successful sweep. Other times, I didn't do so well, but in general, I was getting in fine condition. My response time was getting quicker as I sharpened my intuition. And then one day it happened. My Super Soul Sunday. Coach called my name, called my number, said, "I think you're ready to play." The day I've been waiting for, to get in the actual game, to enter the Super Soul Dome called Earth, and to shoot for the Hall of Fame. Coach said, "I'll call the plays. Just listen with your heart. You're going to have to trust now, and sometimes that's the hardest part. It's a lot tougher than the simulations. That's why they call it the Super Bowl. All the players will eventually become Hall of Famers, so it's time to get fitted for your uniform. You'll need one before I put you in, you know." "Is it true," I said, concerned, "that the uniforms we wear come with an ego?" "It's true. You have to wear your helmet." It runs interference and even tries to call the plays. Is that why the players forget all the training in just a few short days? Yes, it is. And that's why it's so easy in the game to fumble. When the tough play comes your way, try to stay humble. Well, what is the whole point of the game, I said, the passion in me like an ember? Coach glowed as he responded, saying, the whole point is to remember. And the helmet is there for a reason. It's there to bring out your very best. Without the helmet, it wouldn't be much of a contest. It makes the game complicated enough to create plays that lead to love. That's what all the simulations have been preparing you for here up above. And each player has a special gift to give, their own talent, skill. You are to give your unique skills to the Super Bowl, a game changer it can be and it will. And so I entered the Super Soul Bowl. Finally, that someday. And let's just say the plays didn't exactly go my way. I forgot everything, even the coach. I didn't respond very well. And so the first 30 days of the game, I created my own hell. I got a job that was a trap, and I couldn't find my way out. They blitzed me, ran a zone defense. I couldn't hear the coach, so full of doubt. But one day, knocked to my knees, forced to humility, I heard the coach whisper, "Reverse!" It came from somewhere in me. And so I reviewed all the previous plays I had run pretty poorly, but that play, that reverse, somehow I executed almost perfectly. Then I pulled a quarterback sneak, took time to remember my soul, and this time, here at the Earth Dome, became a Super Bowl. I did it! I pulled off a perfect sweep, forgave myself and all others, and in that moment I remembered the coach, my soul sisters and brothers. And when I did, somehow, someway, everyone's game elevated, and I could almost hear the celestial beings in the stands cheering, elated. I dove in the end zone, did the funky chicken, my soul reaching through. It all made sense. We're all a part of a team, each with something special to do. That moment was my Super Soul someday, when I finally gave my soul to the game. That's when I learned to love my uniform. When I let go of the shame. And my helmet just kind of melted away. And I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. An assistant to the coach. Quickly thereafter I became. So all you souls here in the celestial stands, here come the glory days. Your number just got called. It's time to implement the coach's plays. So let's get fired up. Can you feel the glowing ember? You're about to enter the game to learn, to remember. Your skills have been honed. Coach believes in you. There's nothing else to say. Put on your uniforms. Get in the game now. And together let's all make it your Super Soul Sunday! Thank you. Thank you, lady. Come on in, come on in. There's 3 seats right there. Good to see you. Thanks for making it. So what if today was your Super Soul Sunday? What if today became the day that we began to listen to the coach's plays, and we began to listen to our soul, make things happen, stop living in fear, start stepping out? Because we have this saying here, as earthlings, we often say, someday. Someday Someday I'll get in shape. Someday I'll start this project. Someday I'll begin this thing over here. Someday I'll forgive. Someday I'll start meditating. Someday I'll begin committing to my spiritual practice. Someday I'll go on that trip. Someday I'll. But as it turns out, Someday Isle is an island somewhere off in the Pacific that our GPS cannot even find. We spend our whole life looking for Someday Isle. Where did I put that? I don't know. I can't find it. But I believe, this is my personal belief, that our soul, when we say Someday Isle, Our soul is actually trying to get our attention and say to us, that's what you're really supposed to be doing. All the other stuff is second. You're really supposed to put this first. All the things that we put on someday I'll that we never get to are our souls whispering to us, this is what matters, this is what's important. But we kind of live in fear of it. And we kind of think, well, maybe. And we keep just renegotiating with ourselves that this could be, this could be. But what would happen if today we made a little step toward living in someday I'll? What if we relocated it from somewhere lost in the South Pacific and put it right underneath our feet? So we lived on someday I'll. So we put first things first. Because you cannot get second things by putting them first. It's impossible. You can only get second things by doing first things first. But we often live our lives doing second things first. We never get to the first thing. It's about shifting it around, switching it. And so this quote right here is one of my favorite quotes of all time. And it helps me remember and attempt to be on someday I'll every day. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. By Goethe. That's how you pronounce it. Goethe. But it looks an awful lot like Goethe, doesn't it? Which to me makes a lot more sense. Because, I mean, listen to this. Listen. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. Goethe! Goethe! Doesn't it make more sense? So today, let's make it Goethe, go beeth it, and allow Goethe, to be kind of our coach today. Through Goethe, through this great mind, we hear the voice of the coach calling some plays. Now this little statement, I love it. However, it's a short little piece of a much bigger quote that to me is actually a whole philosophy for living. So we're going to take a look at the whole quote in context and move through it. So here's the whole quote. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, a chance to draw back. There is one elementary truth that ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance which no one could have dreamed would have come their way. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Now, doesn't every word in this resonate with your soul? It is just, for me, it is like a philosophy to live by. And Goethe is telling us, through the power of he's our coach today, through him, telling us that we can live this way, and it changes everything. I love this. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy. A chance to draw back. An elementary truth that ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. Ah, but when one commits, providence moves. Providence moves. So here we are. We are on the second month of the year, February. But January, I think of it like this sparkly month. It's like full of energy and excitement. It's our someday month, right? Someday, this is my someday year. I've got 12 brand new months to do, become, experience, have, and give the gift that I've always been meant to do. And I call it the puppy dog month. We're all like, yeah, let's do this. Throw the ball, I'll catch it. Whatever you put in front of me, I got the energy, I can do that. But then February comes. February comes. And it's like the old mother behind the shed. Can you just bring me my child? I'm going to take a nap now. What ball? I'm not going to touch the ball. So February is the old mutt in the behind the shack. But it doesn't have to be that way. Every month can be puppy dog month. Let's do this thing. We can do this thing. Full of that. Let the spirit in energy to live, do, and express. It can be like that every month. That's why the visionaries of Coexist got together and last month, and we created a vision that creates and makes 2015 Puppy Dog Year. Where we created and saw, we're co-creators. We got to be a part of it. And our subconscious mind, which is connected to the divine mind, needs a plan. It needs something. We need to feed it something. Otherwise, the world is feeding it full of junk. Right? So we have to be proactive as co-creators with God and give our subconscious mind something to meditate upon, to move toward, to be that puppy dog. So that's what we did last month. The coexist visionaries got together and we wrote out a plan. And I'm telling you right now, it's transformed my life already. And we're going to get together tomorrow night and review those and go deeper and go over what we're doing today. And if you're not already a part of the coexist visionaries, be here tomorrow night. We break bread. We're going to go deeper in everything. And you can write your plan. We'll have time to redo that if you didn't do it yet. Supporting each other in being our best is part of our DNA. The dawn of humanity, what do we find? We lived as tribes, as groups, because we knew we were better off together than alone. And if we didn't come together and support each other in being our best, we would not have survived. Our very survival counted on us joining together, bringing our forces, our mind, our ideas, our visions, how we could do things better. It counted on it. You and I would not be here today if we lived separately in the beginning, would we? We would have completely died off. So it's part of our DNA. We had to come together in a mastermind to survive. But now we have evolved beyond that in many parts of the world. We don't need to be together anymore to survive. We've taken care of those basic necessities. And in some ways it's a blessing, but in other ways it's a curse because we're supposed to come together. But what we've done is we've evolved past the need to be together to survive. Now we need to get together to step into the next stage of evolution, which is to thrive as a spiritual being. To become our most authentic self, to help each other give the gift we're here to give. And paradoxically, I would say, if we don't step up into thriving and supporting each other and giving that gift, we may not survive. And so it goes full circle. So this idea is as old as humanity itself. And if we look through history, we see that great ideas have always come from people who created mastermind groups. Andrew Carnegie, W. Clement Stone, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Bill Gates, it goes on and on. Jesus, of course, what did he do? He was a visionary, wasn't he? And he created his visionary group, his mastermind group. They were called the 12 what? Disciples. But we know now today there were a lot more than 12, and there were also a lot of women involved. They just didn't become part of history. But he gathered together all these people who had a vision like him. Then, and only then, biblically does it say he was able to create miracles. Only when he felt the support of this group that he gathered together could he raise up into a new vibration. Now, a lot of people wonder, did Jesus actually perform these miracles and things that he did? I don't care, because Jesus performed the miraculous. Because what Jesus did, with the support of those people, he ushered in a higher consciousness. He gave us the blueprint for a new human. He stepped into a world in which they said, love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, yeah, that's okay, but what about loving your enemy as yourself? Now we can transcend. Now we can lift it up to a whole other level. And that blueprint that he gave us, we're still trying to come into, aren't we? We're still trying to find it. We're still trying to learn to love each other as I have loved you. So he gave us that miracle. He brought in a consciousness with the support of that mastermind group, those visionaries, a new way of being. And we're still trying to reach that goal. And when we do, together, as we come together, we will do so. Helen Keller said this, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together there will be success. And then Jesus said, wherever two or more are gathered, I am there. Now, does that mean the physicality and the personality of Jesus? Of course not. The guy's not going to show up in the sea. What he's saying is, what do you say? I am there. Okay, so the I am that I am will be there. The higher consciousness, the truth, the essence, the universal mind that expressed through me will be there with you if you get together with that intention. That will awaken inside of you. The I am that I am will be there because that moves through me and it's in you, but you forgot. And you need to be reminded. And so we gather here today, we gather to coexist to remind each other, and then we go deeper in our visionaries, to go deeper in commitment to expressing and doing and being and making this our super soul someday. Because when we gather together as a group, what happens? Providence shows up. Providence moves. Providence. This is one of the things I love about this quote. When one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Now, I don't know about you, but I wasn't really sure what providence meant. So I looked it up. Are you ready for this? I'm not so sure you're ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay. Providence is defined as the caring aspect of God or nature that moves as a spiritual power. Providence, the caring nature, the caring aspect of God or nature that moves as a spiritual power. So what is our coach telling us? That the moment we commit wholeheartedly, then the caring nature of God the aspect of God and nature moves as a spiritual power. All sorts of things occur to help that one would never have otherwise occurred. A whole stream of events, issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance which one could never have dreamed of. Because providence is moving. The caring aspect of God or nature that moves as a powerful spiritual force. So when we gather together in a room together in like mind, providence is there. Providence is there. It's moving and magic and amazing things begin to happen. So I have a couple of examples to show you how. See, I think of this from our coach Goethe. I think of this as a way of living and being, a whole philosophy of just living. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. One of them directly affects every one of us in this room. And it happened a year ago, December. I had the idea of this thing for the visionaries. And what I saw was a group coming together who were really, really vibrating at a high level, that wished to create providence in their life, that wished to ignite the caring aspect of God, nature, that moves as a powerful spiritual source to embody mind and soul, spirit. And that we would create clarity in our lives, we would catch on fire. And then, on top of that, I thought, and how then can we make a difference in the world by getting everybody to start to experience providence and come together in that like mind? How could you do that? How could we gather the planet together in a mastermind group? And then this whole thing was like an inspiration. I didn't think of it. It just came to me as a vision, which is why I called it the Visionaries. It was a vision. All of a sudden it hit me, the World Wide Web. That's how we can reach out and give this material to the whole world, that we can have an effect by giving the same information we do to each other in our small group to the whole planet. The World Wide Web is having an effect on the world, our children, and each other like nothing else in the history of humanity. Am I right? That's right. It's transforming everything. And there's so much power there. And it does good things, and it does some things that are putting us in reverse. So I think of the internet and the World Wide Web as a reflection of human consciousness. That which we are doing shows up. This is all in my book. When you click, if you see where people are clicking to, it is a direct reflection of what we're thinking about. And what we got to do is create a world where those clicks are moving toward higher consciousness, where everybody clicks because they want to be a better person, everybody clicks because they want to ignite their soul, everybody clicks because they want to be more forgiving, accepting, and loving. So we got to put something on there where they'll be clicking to. So this is what I thought of doing. As a group, together, first we do our work within, and then we give the gift. Now, how I could pull this off, I had no idea. But I was committed to it. I didn't have a group. I didn't have a clue how I could do this. Well, in December, Lennon Richardson, who's sitting back there on the couch, hi, Lennon. Everybody say, hi, Lennon. Holding up the back. He's like, if you go on a tour, there's always somebody in the back who just keeps everybody, come on, keep moving, move. That's Lennon. He's in the back of Coexist, keeping it moving, actually. So, December, he walks up to me and he goes, Barry, do you need a roommate? Now, I had no idea I needed a roommate, but I did. I said, I think I do need a roommate. So he moved in with me right away. Like a week later, he moved in. Well, it just so happens, I didn't know this at the time, that Lennon was majoring in marketing through the World Wide Web. Okay, what happens when you commit? Providence moves. All sorts of things occur. All manner of unforeseen meetings. Okay, so we meet. He's majoring in marketing through the World Wide Web. The next thing I know, he has his final. And in his final, he proposes to his professor, his teacher, can I use it? What they were supposed to do is just find something somewhere out there and create a marketing plan for them. Well, he came to his professor and said, can I use coexist? And we'll just create a marketing plan for coexist, for all that they're about. And he gathered together some of the best students at PSU. And they created a marketing plan for you and me and how we can reach the world. And how we can reach and use the web and everything for coexist and for the visionaries. How we can do this. Could I have ever? So then, as they are doing this, they discovered something called ad grants. It is a grant that Google gives to nonprofits. If they get behind their idea, they look at their website, they like what they're doing, they will give you a grant. And if you are accepted into that, you are given $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year in advertising time with Google. Not only will they give you $120,000 a year worth of advertising, they also give you their human resources, some of their best people to help you create your campaign on Google. So, a few weeks ago, I was reviewing what Lennon had created, and I came across this. I went, holy smokes, this is unbelievable. Is this real? Does this actually happen? So I got on the phone and I called John McKeon. Why? Because he's part of the team. What do you do in a mastermind group? You gather people around you who are better than you at things. Because, as Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. I'm good at certain things, you're good at other things. I know John's good at this kind of stuff. So I called him up. I said, would you be willing to look into this? He's like, absolutely. It was like lightning struck. The man was on fire. And I gave him information. He's like, I need this, I need that, blah, blah. 2 days later, he said, okay, everything's done. I've applied. It's out there now. We just have to wait and see. I don't know. Was it a week later, 10 days later? 1 week later. 1 week later, I get an email from John that says, we're in. They've accepted us. We are now the recipient of $120,000 worth of advertising on Google from here on out. Now listen to me. If you would have, and they giving us human resources, if you would have said this to me a year ago December when I had the idea, if you would have walked up to me and said, Barry, Google's going to give you $120,000 worth of advertising every year and give you human resources to make this dream come true, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said, you're joking, you're insane. They're not going to do that. But when one is committed, what moves? Providence. The caring aspect of nature or God that moves as a powerful spiritual source. And all kinds of meetings, and all kinds of incidences, and material assistance, which no one could have ever dreamed of, will come your way. And that's exactly what happened. And so if you want to go, if you're not already a part of the Visionaries, be here tomorrow night at 6:30. We have dinner together. We're going to get out our vision. If you haven't created one yet, we'll have time to create one. We're going to look at our lives and create that blueprint for becoming the new human being. And we're going to talk about how we're going to use this gift we've now been given to reach the world. So that's example number one and how it directly affects us, the power of committing. Example number two I want to tell you about is my book. A real personal example. And where to begin on this story, it's hard for me to say, but what I'm going to do today is start at the beginning of 2nd grade. You know those times when you're a kid that stand out in your mind, just etched in your brain? There's moments, and they're created by emotion. If you had a powerful emotional moment, your brain makes like an Etch-a-Sketch. It just goes, and it is there. Okay, so beginning of 2nd grade, I believe it was, and it's going to be interesting to see if my dad remembers this, because I didn't tell him I was going to tell the story. Beginning of 2nd grade, it was like parent-teacher night at the school. And we were walking through the school, and there was this wall that was actually like a divide, like it was a rolling divider. And on that divider was the alphabet across it like a rainbow. Is this coming back in your memory yet, Dad? There was the alphabet like a rainbow, and my dad walked up to that wall with the alphabet, and he said to me, Barry, and he pointed at a letter, and he said, what letter is this? And let's just say he pointed at a T. And I felt utter fear and paralyzation move through my body because I knew I was supposed to know. I had bluffed my way all the way through school. I had no idea what any of those symbols meant. So let's say he pointed at a T, and I had a 1 in 26 chance. So and I didn't know there was 26 letters, but let's say he pointed at a T. I went W, and I saw my dad's face go ashen. I mean, red and scared. And then he pointed at another letter, let's say it was an X, and I went, B? And he turned, and there was somebody to my left, and I don't know who it was, but it was either a teacher or the principal, and he pretty much ran over there, grabbed them, and said, my son does not know the alphabet. What is going on here? And I heard that. Well, the next day I entered the alphabet boot camp at this school. They had a record player with a little tin speaker that, you know those old records, and the little speaker? And if I had to sing the ABCs once, I sang it 100 times. And you know the part that goes elemento? I thought that was one letter. Where's elemento? that something you fish? A minnow? I don't know. So now they were trying to get me to be able to identify the letter, the sound with the symbol, which I was having a very difficult time doing. Then third grade comes along. We moved to another part of Michigan. It was Detroit, Michigan. Another part of Michigan. I go to a different school in third grade, and I remember taking an eye test. Remember they used to do the ear boop, and then the eye test. And I don't know if they do that anymore, but you look through the thing, and then the W shows up, and they ask which way is it going, right? So the W comes up, and no matter which way it went, I pointed a different way. So the W went this way, I went, oh, it's going that way. This way, that way. This way, that way. And they go, oh, he needs glasses. So then they fitted me with glasses, and they were trying these, you know, just like binoculars, right? It was like a telescope. Now the W was like this close. And they're like going, which way's the W going? I'm like, that way. And they're what? So then somebody there knew something. And he was there in third grade because of that eye test. I believe that's what happened. Said, I think maybe he's dyslexic. So then I began a battery of tests to discover if I was dyslexic. And lo and behold, they found that I'm dyslexic, and not just a little bit, a lot. Which was a great relief to me. It was like I felt relieved by the whole thing to find out that I was dyslexic. Because before then, my whole life, I was very confused about a lot of things. For example, I used to always wonder why everyone else wondered if there was a God, why I always wondered if there was a dog. Now, it made sense. For example, I used to wonder why when life gave everybody else lemons, I always got melons. And February 14th, I mean, it was very confusing to me, because I always thought it was National Vaseline Day. I don't know. But now my life made more sense. Now, fast forward 30 years, and a whole lot of D's and F's and all kinds of tests, and reading, writing, and arithmetic. 30 years later, I'm about 40 years old, and I have this idea to write a book. Now, I've never thought in my life that I'd ever want to write anything, that I ever could write anything. But all of a sudden, I have an idea to write a book, and a whole bunch of books I had ideas for, but I finally settled on this concept called the Tchotchke Challenge, because I believe it is the core issue in our planet today, and I found a humorous way to do so, but the idea that we, in our culture, that we believe more is always better. And it's literal, and it's a metaphor for life. And so I've created a whole language for it. For example, it's not just stuff and things that we constantly crowd ourselves with, but information, right? An overload. It's informachki, and we got to get it out. And technology, and how about all the remotes that we don't even know what they go to? That's technology. So I created this whole philosophy and these funny words to deal with what I think is the core issue, and then in the end we find our soul again, because all of that means nothing to our soul. Nothing. That every day we're told, every day, you need more, you're not good enough, and if you get this, you're good enough. You need more, you're not good enough, but if you get this, you're good enough. You need more, but you're not good enough, and you get this, you're good. Right? It's a big lie. It's a big lie. So my book is a journey back to the soul. So I had this idea to write this book, and my idea and my vision was to get published by Hay House Publishing, which was the impossible dream. How can I get published by Hay House? That's Wayne Dyer, that's Marianne Williamson, that's Deepak Chopra. How can I be published with all the heavy hitters like this? It's impossible. But what was I? Committed. So I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I rewrote and I rewrote and I rewrote and I wrote and I wrote and I rewrote and I rewrote. Now I have seen like advertisements for workshops in a weekend, and they tell you you're going to write a book. My friends, run the other way as fast as you can. That is a big fat lie. One thing comes from commitment, and that is excellence. And excellence comes from commitment. And out of that commitment comes what? The willingness to redo and redo and redo and redo and redo until it's excellent, until it's excellent, until it's excellent. You're not going to do it in a weekend. That's a fantasy. But you're filled with power and passion, enthusiasm to do it right. You want it right. So I wrote and I rewrote and I rewrote and I rewrote. And I finally came up with the first draft of my full book. Just the first draft of my full book. About a couple weeks later, I got an email about a contest that Hay House was having it was like the American Idol for writers. And if you enter, the best manuscript would get a contract to be published with Hay House. So I thought, well, why don't I enter this contest? So I entered the contest. Now, if you entered the contest, then you had to go to this this seminar where they teach you to be an author and how to be an author and all this stuff. It was part of the deal. If you're going to college, you've got to come here. We're going to teach you about it. So I signed up for it. And it was a little cruise off of Florida. So now it was a financial investment. I had to get to Miami, get on this cruise ship. And when I got there, I was a little intimidated. There was, I think it was around close to 1,000 other people had entered. Wow. And many of them had several books already. They were published with other people, but they wanted Hay House for the next book. And they were sharp and they were on the ball, and I felt like I was out of place. It was scary. And on a Tuesday, what I heard was that once they come to the best manuscript, I heard something like this. Once they come to the best manuscript, if they have 3 or 4 or 5 books that they really like, how they're going to finally choose the winners, who makes the best impression at this seminar. Oh. If they get it down to something like that. So you can imagine what it was like. So at this retreat was the president of Hay House. His name is Reed Tracy. It's not Louise Hay. And I can tell you one reason why Reed Tracy is the president and not Louise Hay. It's because he's a master at the World Wide Web. So they promoted him to president. His name's Reed Tracy. And he talks like this. And then there was Cheryl Richardson. You may have heard of her. She's a best-selling author, been on Oprah a million times, blah, blah, blah. Cheryl Richardson, a bunch of other well-known authors with Hay House. And so you can imagine what it was like, 1,000 would-be authors running around wanting to make an impression. It was like the koi pond feeding whenever they were walking down the hallway. Reed Tracy, I want to tell you about that. Cheryl Richardson, look at that. It was just like, what? And I don't really like that kind of energy. I don't like it, but I was committed to do everything I could. So how could I do this? So there was a Tuesday night, it was a meet and greet with Reed Tracy, the president of Hay House, Cheryl Richardson, and all the other authors. It was a Tuesday night. Well, I went to my room around 5. I was ready at 5:45 for this dinner that started at 7. Doors open at 7. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I got an hour and 15 minutes. I'm on a cruise ship in the Caribbean. We're going by Jamaica. Why don't I just go outside and enjoy the view like everybody else and see the sunset? But then there was a little whisper in my ear that said, Barry, go to the dinner now. Just go. Just go to the dinner now. And this other voice said, well, what are you talking about? I just want to go outside and enjoy it. Go now. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, a chance to draw back. If I wasn't committed, I would have just gone out on the deck and enjoyed the sun and showed up at 7. But my commitment gave me the ability to hear a whisper. So I went to the dinner at 5:45. I got there a little after 6. And I opened the door to this huge dining hall. There was nobody there. It was empty. I thought, what am I doing here? And then I saw one guy standing way over by the window. Look, it was like a shadow. Way over by the window, just staring out at the blue water. And so I walked across the room, and I thought, well, I'll just introduce myself to whoever this guy is. I said, hey, I'm early too. And he turned around. Guess who it was? Reed Tracy. Me and him, mano a mano, for a half an hour, solving the problems of life. By the time 7 o'clock came, here come the koi fish. And it was like, I'm not kidding. I remember this moment. Just Robert, stand up with me, please. You be Reed Tracy. Say, bye, Barry. Right. So, Reed Tracy and I are talking for a while. At 7 o'clock, the hordes come in. I'll just start walking backwards. We were like, okay, see you later. I mean, he got washed into the ocean, and I never saw or spoke to him again, other than up on the stage. I never saw or spoke to him again. So that was a Tuesday. Thursday night, they were having a thing where all the people would gather together in the big performance hall. And if you've been on a cruise, they have those giant rooms, and they do all the shows in that room, where there were all these authors would come, and they would randomly pick people, approximately 10 out of about 1,000, to just come up and talk about their book. So everyone has about a 1 in 100 chance to get chosen to come up and talk a little bit about their book. So Tuesday night was when I talked to Reed Tracy. Wednesday, we pulled out an island that was occupied by the Mayans. And it was this amazing place to go see and visit people, snorkeling and scuba diving, and went on tours and all that. That was Wednesday. Guess what I did? I stayed in my room the entire day, never left, and worked on a 5-minute talk all day long. All day. They said, you've got 5 minutes. 1 in 100 chance that I'd be picked. But I was going to be ready. What is luck? Preparation, meeting opportunity. When you're committed, what moves? Providence. I was not there to go snorkeling. I was not there to go on a tour. I was there for one reason, get published with Hay House. And if I was going to get picked 1 out of 100, by golly, I'm going to be ready. So I worked all day inside my room on a 5-minute talk. No, I couldn't get it to 5 minutes. You know me, at 45 minutes, as short as I can ever get. So I'm sitting there working as hard as I can, and I got it down to like 7.5 minutes, you know? I'm like, God, I can't get any shorter, I can't get any shorter. And I thought, well, when people say 5 minutes, they don't mean 5 minutes, they mean, right? They mean about 5 minutes. So sometime in the afternoon, I took one break, I was exhausted, and I went outside, I hailed a cab, and I got in this old broken down cab, and I said to the cab driver, who barely spoke English, I said to him, I said, take me somewhere spiritual. He didn't know. I said, energy. I said, soul. I said, God, I want to go somewhere just like that. And he took off driving in this beat-up old taxi cab through this village that led through a little village, and it led to a little cathedral. Let me just say, the Catholics got every single speck of this planet covered. So there was a cathedral. Now, we usually think of a cathedral as this awe-inspiring, massive thing, but it was a tiny little building. And I went into the building, and it was perfect because it was humble. And I walked into the building, and there was just a few chairs on both sides. And I walked up to the very front, and there was Jesus on the cross. And I knelt down. You know the little things that you kneel down on, Christy? What are they called? Kneelers. That makes sense. Brilliant. So I went to the kneeler, and I got down on my knees, and I don't even know if I did it right, but I did the Hail Mary, full of grace. And I said to Providence, to God, the angels, to Mother Mary, I said, if this is meant to be, if this is the next part of my life, I'm here. And I'm going to give you everything I got. Everything. I promise. And so if it's meant to be, help me. I surrender. I surrender. And I got the chills. And I felt Providence. But aren't we Providence? I mean, are we not part of God in the caring aspect of nature that moves with a powerful force? And it was in that moment that I realized that our idea of surrender is often very misguided. Surrender does not mean to quit. It means to commit. To surrender to the aspect of us that lives in fear. To surrender to the ego part of us that says, oh, you're not good enough. To surrender to the part of us that says, well, what if you make a fool out of yourself? Let that go and commit. Why? So Providence can move. The whole universe is waiting for us to commit. Because we're part of that universe. And the universe is saying, I'll meet you halfway. But I got to know you're in. You know, when Moses, you know the story of Moses. They say, you know, the great story is he came with a staff and he said, part ocean, and the waters went, and he strolled across. Well, that's not exactly how a lot of people say it happened. And in fact, historians would say that's not what happened. Here's the story I've heard, and I like this a lot better. They said what happened is Moses came to the Red Sea, and he walked into the water, and he kept walking, and he kept walking, and he kept walking until it was at his chin. And then and only then did Providence move, because Providence understood, oh, he's in. He's in. And then somehow, in some way, he crossed the water. How we know exactly, we'll never know, but he did. Providence moved. Something came and helped him get across that water. And so the idea of surrendering to me is not give up. It's not to quit, but it's to commit. It's not to give up. It's to give in to the essence and the truth and the light and the love that we truly are. And so the cab driver waited for me. I got back in the cab, went back to my room, and everybody else was like, woo, and snorkeling, and da-da-da. I went back to my room, and I continued working on a talk that I had 1 in 100 chance that I would ever even give for 5 minutes. I couldn't get it done in 5. I had 7.5, they don't actually 5 minutes there. So then the next day, Thursday comes, and it's like a 4-hour event, because whenever they have their announcements, and then when they have somebody do their talk, they spend 20 minutes talking about, well, we don't really love your book idea, or we do, or whatever, and they give you feedback. So I get in there, I'm in the middle of the room, and Reed, Tracy, and Cheryl are on the stage, and they take turns picking. And so Cheryl, they said, who's going to go first? Cheryl said, I'll go first. So she picks this guy. He comes up on the stage, she pulls out a stopwatch. And the guy gets in the middle of the stage, it's a giant stage with all the lights and everything, and she goes, are you ready? Set. go. And he was good and he was powerful and he's going along and all of a sudden she goes, time! And the guy was like, what is it? And I went, oh no. That's not how a talk's supposed to go. You gotta have a powerful ending, man. This is terrible. The next person, that takes 15, 20 minutes. The next person comes up, are you ready? Go. 5 minutes later, time! The person was like, ah! Now this is one of two big moments that happened to me that day. In that moment, I said to myself, I have got to get out of here and refine my talk. So I left, went down the hall, found a little room that was empty, and I began pounding away. And at that point, it got to the place where it was like one word, get rid of that word, get rid of that word, get rid of that word, trying to get it to 5 minutes. After an hour and a half, I had it to 5 minutes. And I knew exactly where 5 minutes was, exactly. Exactly. I had my iPhone, I was timing it. 5 minutes. And I also had these other 2.5 minutes that were amazing, and I was ready. I thought, whatever, if I can ever, whatever. So I went back, and I couldn't get to the main room. I had to go up to the balcony. I went up in the balcony in the nosebleeds, and when I get back, Cheryl Richardson says, we have time for one more. We're going to take a break, though, for 5, she goes, for 5 minutes, and then we have time for one more, and then they do some announcements. So I'm in the balcony, I look down, and I see one empty seat in the front row. Okay? This was the second big, huge moment. I thought to myself, they're not going to pick you up here in the balcony. You got to get to the front row. And in that moment, all my fears, all my insecurities, all my you're way out of place here came up. I was that second grade little boy who doesn't even know the alphabet. And I got scared. And I thought to myself, oh, just stay up here and raise your hand. You can tell everybody you gave it your best, and if it's meant to be, they'll pick you. Oh, baloney. Right? That's a bunch of baloney. We are Providence. We got to meet halfway. But all my insecurities and all the negative that my helmet was speaking to me loudly. You can tell everybody you worked all day yesterday on your talk, and you were ready, and you raised your hand, and you have a perfect reason to fail. But then I started repeating to myself over and over again, the only true failure is failure to try. Say that with me. The only true failure is failure to try. And I thought, well, what if you make a fool out of yourself? What if you bomb? Because everybody's talk was like intense, serious, and really good. I was about to do 5 minutes of comedy. Right? And I got to tell you something if you don't know this, but comedians do not try out their material first on tour. They don't. They go to little tiny clubs, and they give their talk, they do their comedy, and they go home and they rewrite everything. What worked, what didn't work, how can I refine it? And then they go to another little tiny club, and they usually don't even announce they're going there. Musicians do the same thing with their music. They go to a little club, and famous people go to a little club, and everybody's like, what the heck? There they are, and they're trying out the material. They do not. So there I was about to try out a whole bunch of new comedy on a group of people I don't even know, and I just thought, man, what if this isn't funny? What if this doesn't work? But I kept telling myself, be yourself, Barry, be yourself. You give your gift. They do their thing, you do your thing. The only failure is not trying. So when she finally said, time for a break, I got up and I moved. And it was like I was in the Super Bowl. All the people are moving through the people and rushing and going down the stairway at the back of the balcony and getting through in the koi pond, and they're rushing around, retracing and showing up. They're getting me out, pushing, pushing, pushing. I finally get down to the front row, and I get there at 5 minutes. I sit down at the front row, and then Reed Tracy and Cheryl Richardson get back on the stage. And this was a critical moment because they took turns, remember? Cheryl picked one, Reed picked one. They got on the stage and Reed said to Cheryl, why don't you pick one? And she was about to pick somebody and she said, no, wait a minute, it's your turn. And he said, okay. And he looked out over all these people. Who wants to be next? Hundreds of hands pop up. He looks out over this crowd of people. He's looking, 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 and he's about to pick somebody, and then he looks in the front row, and he remembered me. Why? Because I listened to a little voice that told me to go to dinner an hour early. When you commit, Providence moves. things you never thought would have happened. I saw him recognize me. I saw it. And he goes, these were his exact words, I pick you. I was the last person. I came up. I met Cheryl Richardson. I got in the middle of the stage. She had her little timer. And she goes, go. So I launch into this talk that I had worked on for countless hours. And I start doing it. I'm about to come to the first punchline, and my heart is in my throat. I am so scared this is going to bomb. I'm so scared. And then I say the punchline, and all of a sudden this uproar of laughter, and I just went, oh, God. And then I kept going, and more funny stuff, more funny stuff. And I was ready. If she didn't say stop, I was going to go into the next 2.5 minutes, which I knew would bring tears. And so I got to that last moment, and I stopped for half a second, waited for her to say time. She didn't, and I launched into those last 2.5 minutes. And people started to get teary-eyed. Cheryl Richardson started to cry. And then, at the end of my talk, at the powerful moment, she finally went, time! And I was wondering, how on earth did I fit that whole thing in 5? That's impossible. I know the timing. I had it down. But I couldn't figure it out. So then you do a few minutes of feedback, and people talk, and Cheryl says things, and Reed says things. And then I'm walking off the stage, and Cheryl walks up to me, and she goes, Barry, I can't explain this, but the timer broke. Swear to God. All kinds of things, unforeseen incidences. And then she said, I believe you were meant to tell your whole time. That's what she said to me. Then I stepped off the stage, and why don't we take a moment here to pause time and step into inviting Providence to move into our own lives in a meditation time. So I invite you all to take a deep breath. We're just going to begin by raising our own vibration. And we'll use the singing bowl to choose the note. Feel the vibration of this bowl. Recognize that we are all vibration. So what would happen if today was your someday? Someday I'll, someday I'll, someday I'll do this. Someday I'll live my dreams. Someday I'll sail around the world. Someday I'll commit to my spiritual practice. Someday I'll gather in with a group, a mastermind group, commit to my heart and my soul. Someday I'll put first things first. Someday I'll, someday I'll, someday I'll. What if it's true that our soul is whispering to us and saying, those are the things you're actually supposed to be doing? That's the super soul someday. Not all these excuses and all this information coming from the world that tells you you need to get this, buy this, do this, act this way, be this way. What if that's all a waste of time? And so let's make someday I'll right here. Let's make it where we build our house. If today is that day, what would be your gift to give? What would be yours to live? What would be yours to experience? Your gift may be something in the form of your work, your business. Your gift may be a vacation to go somewhere and experience something, the someday Isle. Your gift may be something very simple, but here's what happens when we step into what our soul wants to do. We begin to shine. We begin to be a light. And that begins to affect others. It begins to move. Remember, until we're committed, there's hesitancy, a chance to draw back. These some days are what our soul is yearning for. We have entered the Super Bowl, Mother Earth, with its perfect turf, to remember our soul. That's why we're here to remember, to help create the tipping point, to be the attributes of something new, to do our part. For one of us can do so little, but together we can do so much. And so, I surrender. Please say that with me. I surrender. I surrender my excuses together. I surrender my excuses. I surrender my helmet together. I surrender my helmet. So when we surrender, we do not commit. We do not quit, we commit. So that providence can move the caring aspect of God or nature. Now recognize that this truth of who you are spirit, you are this vibration. We allow ourselves to be that higher vibration, that essence, that truth. Then we move through life with unforeseen meetings and assistance. Things we never could have dreamed of. So now we see ourselves as we truly are, a light shining so bright, reaching out from the center of our being, a light vibration, moving from our heart, from our soul. You're no longer afraid to fail because we understand that the only failure is failure to try. So we open ourselves up to providence. And we meet Spirit halfway. And when Spirit, when the divine intelligence of which we are one, says, are you committed? We can say with our whole heart, yes, I am committed. I am committed. Yes, I'm committed. Say that with me. Yes, I'm committed to my best self together, to my best self, to my soul together, to my soul. So it is. And so, when I had this idea for the visionaries and for coexist, of reaching out to the world and becoming that light that reaches out in our own essence, touches, I came up with a very simple mission. So if you're wondering, well, what's coexist about? What's the visionaries about? What are we all about? It's very simple. Our mission is to reach the 100th monkey. There it is. Very simple. So what is the 100th monkey? The 100th monkey effect is a studied phenomenon in which a new behavior or idea is claimed to spread rapidly by unexplained means from one group to all related groups once a critical number of members of one group exhibit the new behavior or acknowledge the new idea. Scientists were conducting a study of macaw monkeys on the Japanese island of Koshima in 1952. These scientists observed that some of these monkeys learned to wash sweet potatoes, and gradually this new behavior spread through the younger generation of monkeys in the usual fashion, through observation and repetition. Once a critical number of monkeys was reached, the so-called 100th monkey, this previously learned behavior instantly spread across the water to the monkeys on nearby islands. All sorts of unforeseen providence moves. So what is our mission? What is our purpose? It's to be a monkey who washes potatoes. If somebody wants to know, what's your mission? To be a monkey. In other words, to be a human being who exhibits a more evolved way of living. That we wash the potatoes. What's the potato washing that we do? Well, we move into forgiveness faster. We step into joy and acceptance faster. We move into non-attachment. We wash those potatoes in a way that other people notice, and that begins to catch on. And then another person, until boom, reaches a critical mass, and it spreads across the planet and has a profound effect and a shift. Now I have to say, some people say the 100th monkey, that it didn't happen this way. Some people say, well, it wasn't like a telepathic thing. Some people say that once all the monkeys were washing potatoes on one island, one monkey got so excited that they found a way to get across and tell the others, because they didn't want the others to live with sand in their teeth. This is true. This is another way they think this happened. Guess what? I don't care which way it happened. The point is, once you get excited about what's happening in your own life, you can't help but get it to somebody else. You don't want to see your brothers and your sisters eating potatoes with sand. In other words, you don't want to see the grit of grudges in their being. You don't want to see the pain of hurt, of living in the past anymore. You want to help them get past it. So we become a monkey who washes potatoes. That's simply it. If somebody asks, just say, well, our purpose is to become a monkey who washes potatoes. There it is. So, a human being who exhibits a more evolved way of living that catches all of it. That's it. And so there I was. I came home, and then I stepped into the profound state of non-attachment. When we step into non-attachment, we create the outcome we want in that moment. Because when we are not attached, every outcome is perfect. Then it becomes whatever will happen is what it's to be, but not until you have given everything you have. Right? Otherwise, it becomes an excuse not to be your best, not to give from your soul. But at that point, I knew, without a doubt, I gave everything I had. Now I could let go and be non-attached and know if it's meant to be, it'll happen now. Now I know that. I've done everything I can. And they said it would take 3 months to read every manuscript of all those. And it did, 3 months. I forgot I even went. I'm not kidding. 3 months later, I'm too busy. My life is too busy. I wasn't going to think about it. I forgot. And then one day my phone rang. I picked it up. And the voice went, "Hello, Barry. It's Reed Tracy. Hay House." Chills, my heart pounding. What? He said, I said, "Reed, what's going on?" He goes, "Just calling and tell you. We picked your manuscript." He said, "Welcome to the Hay House family." I believe with all my heart, my manuscript was not the only one. I believe with all my heart there were a few. And somebody remembered me. Remember that guy? Oh yeah, that was amazing. Let's take that one. You know what I'm saying? But that was because I was fully committed and Providence moved. And so I couldn't, it was a surreal moment. It was outside of my body witnessing. You know what I'm saying? It was a witnessing moment. I went outside and I thought again about that kid who couldn't do the alphabet. And I stood in my front yard and I went like this. We did it! And I said to that kid, I said, "Don't give up. Don't give up. You can do this. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it." And so reach back to your little child. Catch that fire. Feel that brilliance. Make this your someday idol. And if you really want to step into some power, be with us here, right here tomorrow night at 6:30. Bless you, my friends. Thank you so much. So, someday I'll give a little more than I usually give. Someday I'll support this coexist place that really helps my soul. So today might be a wonderful day to do that someday. And, you know, we're committed to actually really making a difference in the world. We have this amazing gift. So let me be clear. Google's not giving us money. They're giving us time on the internet. Free advertising. What we need, what we can use, is that fuel. And that fuel comes in human resources, and that fuel comes through the energy of money to help source what we do here and what we're going to do, and we're reaching out. And everything we do on the internet is going to also directly affect, it's all going to be an advertisement for what's happening right here. You see what I'm saying? So we're going to send a message out of higher consciousness across the planet using this profound gift by Google, and all of it's going to point right back to you and me. So what if we're at the ground floor of something truly amazing? So I ask you to make this your Sunday aisle, to maybe step up more financially, to get behind this. Come tomorrow, be a part of the visionaries. It's a lot of fun, it's really powerful. And so I invite you now to hold your gift, your thought, your heart in your hand. I really want to thank also those who already have stepped up and chosen to make this place someplace they support. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So holding your gift in your hand, give thanks for the energy and step into the feeling of providence. Wherever it was that you committed that brought this energy through you, finances are simply energy moving. That's all it is. And now you're choosing to give it to something that is actually committed to making a difference in the world. What more could you do? Think about all the ways you give money throughout the week. How much of that is actually going to raise vibration consciousness on our planet? Interesting question. Well, it's happening here. So feel that finances, however form it is, it's sort of vibrating with life. It's exciting. That money's like, what? I want to be the money that goes here. It's like, get me out of here. I'm excited. So feel that energy, feel that excitement. And we simply say together, with all of our heart and all of our soul now, with all of our being, I am so blessed. Together, I am so blessed. And from that place, we can't keep our blessings from us. And so it is. I need a new battery. So, you know I couldn't resist, right? When I read that line, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. I mean, I tried not to write a song based on that line. I was like, you don't have time, Barry. Look at all the stuff you have to put together for this celebration. There's so much. Sometimes I literally kick and scream picking up my guitar or the piano or whatever, because it's like, how could you possibly do this too? But I couldn't not do it. That's part of what, you know, being in your bliss does for you. And so I had to write a song using that line. In fact, I thought about it before when I saw that line in the past. And I flipped out. Here's what I did. Oops.
Did you know you talk in the key of G?
I did not know that.
Just discovered.
Check it again and sing yours.
There it is. Pull it down just a tad. There you go. So there's the simple lyrics to the song or to the chorus. Maybe you can sing along with us. But this is so new. I wrote the verses last night. Let's see. We rehearsed it one way, and I came in this morning. I said, guys, I've changed all the lyrics. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever you can do, dream.